All right. Okay. 2, 1.
In Boan, Imagination, Flow, Creativity, I talk with friends old and new about what creativity looks like in their industry and what their own approach is to creativity. I speak with people all over the world and in many different occupations. I've certainly learned a lot and know I will learn a lot more. This is series 3 already. I can't believe it. Today I'm speaking with Zubair Anwar, and he comes to us from Islamabad, Pakistan. Hello, Anwar.
Hi, Ruth. It's a pleasure to be in this session with you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
But let's see where it takes us. So, my usual first question is, what does creativity look like or feel like in the industry that you come from or the industry that you support?
Yeah, I think it's a great question and it will help me to speak out my heart about creativity. And I have been having a passion for science, engineering, and technology from the very early days of my childhood, I would say that. And you know, I came into engineering profession. I did my engineering a lot of things, and then I entered into the technology management side and quality management side. So during all this time, I always wanted to do things in such a way that no one is doing. So I used to keep an eye on my class fellows, on the professionals that I used to sit among. And I wanted to always have a uniqueness in my delivery, uniqueness in my answers, uniqueness, in my training programs, sort of things. So to me, it has always been doing things in a different way, in such a way that would appear great. So I always thought that doing things in a novel way would create a value for other people and they would be able to take advantage of my contribution, whether as a management consultant, whether as a trainer. And I apologize if I would be giving so many examples, but honestly, I do multidisciplinary jobs and functions. So I'm a management consultant, I'm a trainer, an adjunct professor as well. And sometime I also get long-term assignments, so I work as a professional employee also. But in all these endeavors, I would try to do things in such a way that would create a value for the stakeholders. And I always understand that doing this would be a recognition also at the end of the day. And it is really not easy. It requires effort and it requires, a lot of thoughtful work to deliver to that value. If I may quote Einstein, because Einstein is one of my inspiration, he always said about creativity that it's intelligence having fun. I always try to do those things which would create an excitement for me. So I would be having pleasure doing all those things. For example, I always feel rocking when I am giving a training, I'm teaching to the executive students, executive programs, or I'm speaking to my staff, or even I'm speaking to my seniors or peers in professional community or on a work. So I always wanted to catch their attention. And another inspiration, if you allow me, from Einstein, he said imagination is more important than knowledge. So that always drives me to think beyond limits. because knowledge is limited and imagination has got no limit, right? Sky is the limit, which is actually limitless. So this would create sufficient space and a big room for me, not only to develop myself, but also my peers, seniors, as well as my staff to contribute to the bottom line. You know, so to me, creativity is actually creating value for your stakeholders, no matter in which ranks and files they are. So I hope that you would like this interesting answer again. Once again, it would be, or it may be a unique one.
So your answer sort of makes me think of Deming. He basically said that it is a solemn promise or a solemn responsibility for leaders to encourage creativity among their staff. What that tells me with your answer is that you enjoy doing what you do because it's interesting. What happens when people feel blocked or they feel crippled by limiting thoughts or beliefs? What do you do to help them?
Yeah. So, Ruth, that's a great question. And I have faced such situations many times because people do not think in the same way. And everyone, they may not be thinking the way I am thinking or you are thinking, because people are a nature creation. We are not robots. We have been programmed to think differently, act differently, react differently, progress differently, which is fine. I mean, this is the design of nature, right? When I said that I would like to do those things which would bring fun to me, I said because that would actually increase my productivity and quality and service levels, as you mentioned about the Deming. So there is another quote, if I could recall it correctly, that if you like what you do, you don't have to do work even a single day on your workplace, because all it would be fun. Now, when it comes to the teamwork, especially, if I could refer to your question, because you said, how do you help people who feel themselves blocked? Or, for example, they don't have exposure to such thinking or the working style or the pattern of doing things differently. So how I would be handling this? So I would give you different examples from different ways that I handle it. So for example, in my training sessions and in the executive MS programs that I teach, what I do and how I promote novel ways of creating value and reciprocating value. So I would say to the trainees or the executive students that I expect the number of answers to my questions should be different from each participant, right? I do not promote memorizing things by heart. I do not promote writing word to word what I said about something. I do not want you people to just blindly saying yes to me. I do not need yes men in my class or in my training program. So to me, the number of answers should be different, and these different answers should be equal to the number of trainees. So everyone should be having his or her own answer, and you should be looking at the things the way you actually think, react, contribute, and deliver. So this sometimes helps them, but since this is not very common, so people still feel that, for example, maybe I would back up my words, or maybe they would write something or they would say something that I won't like. And these are cultural constraints, in fact, because not every trainer, not every teacher would actually behave this way. So ideally, the way our traditional education and training system has been developed in order to replicate the responses which are given by the trainers and the teachers, right? So if there was a single answer to each question, So we would not be having so many management theories. We would not be having so many management gurus. If I could recall a famous quote from Taichi Ono. Taichi Ono was the production manager in Toyota Corporation, and he is called the father of lean management. So he, along with Dr. Shigeo Shingo, they founded lean management discipline, and today it is part of Six Sigma as well. And he used to say to his workers, and he said, the biggest problem is not to have a problem. The biggest problem is not to have a problem. If you come to the workplace and you say, oh, all is fine, we are having a fine day and everything is going smooth, that means there is something wrong, because every problem would create an opportunity for improvement. This is what we believe in quality discipline. So I would actually very bluntly say in my class and in my training programs that I would actually award full marks to that trainee or to the student who would be giving a different answer than what I have told you, even though it is wrong. But I am looking for the people who would be challenging me. So I challenge you, you challenge me. This is how we make a progress. And that would create some divergent thinking, that would create a creativity, and that would help people eventually to enter into a new paradigm that we call innovation, which is a very refined mode of creativity, because creativity may exist as a personal skill. It exists, on the face of the earth for several centuries since the day human was created, right? But it has been exercised in one way or the other. But today we have a technology paradigm, we have industrial paradigm, and if we call it industrial revolution 4.0, or some people are now talking about 5.0. What is the new breathing space in it is innovation, is recognizing creativity as a personal skill, recognizing that this can be created, this can be polished up, this can be enhanced, and that would help actually to become more innovative. Now, if we talk from the organizational perspective, and that is another thing that I take care of in my trainings and in my consulting assignments. Organizations, for example, they want to develop a new product. Another example, they want to enhance the customer experience. Another example, they are trying to adapt design thinking, how to engage with customers more and more, how to engage with community more and more. And what they are trying to do, they are trying to find out in novel ways, new ways which have not been tried before. That's number one. Number two, which are not being tried by their competitors as well. So this would give them a competitive advantage in terms of monetization. So all this require innovation. And what is, if you ask me, the difference between creativity and innovation, I'm afraid that this may be your next question. So I would be preemptive and I would be proactive to answer you before you ask me. So creativity to me is a personal skill. It is a professional skill. But when it is transformed into a process, when it helps organizations, when it helps teams to get a bigger success as a team, as a group, as an organization, it is innovation. And that is why today we have innovation management system, which has been standardized by ISO 56002-2019. And it is about delivering the value. So creativity is creating the value, and innovation is about channelizing and delivering it for the end users and to the stakeholders. So I would actually ask people in my consulting assignments to think, for example, in customer shoes. But very importantly, all of us use this phrase, feel yourself into the customer shoes, feel yourself into the process stakeholder shoes. But what is important is to first remove yourself from your own shoes, right? Oh yes. So what we do, we feel ourselves in customer shoe, but we keep the other foot in our shoe, and that creates a confusion. So in order to have an unbiased advices, we should feel ourselves completely in customer shoes. That would help us, in fact, applying all those techniques and methodologies. For example, things like quality function deployment, ISO 16355, service excellence, right? In order to implement design thinking, and very importantly, in problem solving, right? Now, problem solving, Einstein always said, if you try to solve the problem in the way it was created, you are never going to solve it. So you have to have a different way. You have to have out of box thinking, what they call it. You have to think in a different way, right? Now, for example, maybe you would agree to me that people who make up a process, they hardly see any problem over the period of time in the process, because they get emotionally attached to that process and they think it has been created in a great way. It would have all the checks which are required. It would have all the control points which are required for the organization. But the process improvement in input would not come from the process stakeholders or the process owners. They would always come from the customers who would be the end user of that process. So that is why we have to have a voice outside the process. And that would be a creative way of problem solving for a process, for a product, for new product development, for the process improvement, for the process management, or the process re-engineering. So if you allow me, we discussed some time that creative thinking, since you are the true professional advocating creativity and you are promoting it amongst the individual professionals, so you might agree with this notion that before 2020, creative thinking was advised by World Economic Forum as one of the top 5 skills which would be required in the new industrialization era. Yes. But now in 2023, creative thinking has taken a higher place in those top 5. Now it ranks second. Absolutely. Right? And there are many other skills in those 10 list of skills which World Economic Forum advises individual professionals and the organizations to focus upon. Now, many of those skills are dependent upon creativity. So, for example, analytical thinking, right? It depends upon creativity. If you have the data, you try to analyze it. But if you analyze it with all those constraints and assumptions which you pre-assume and preempt, again, you would be in a state of confusion. So creative thinking would allow to have input of those people who think differently. And by saying that, we have to value those people who talk differently than us. And here comes the value, right? We like to be surrounded by those professionals who would say, boss, you are good, boss, you are right, boss, whatever you say is good. So if you allow me, I would bring in another related term, which is emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence, and Daniel Goleman, he also suggests that one person cannot remain in one state of emotion. There are different types of emotions which arise and fade away with the situation. So sometimes you need to be authoritative, sometimes you need to be affiliative, sometimes you need to be supportive, sometimes you need to be in a coaching mode. So, but which mode you should be adapting at what time, which is another skill in those top skills advised by World Economic Forum, that you should be adaptable. Again, creative thinking would help you. At what point of time you should be having pace setting tone as a situational leadership. So these are all soft skills dependent upon creative thinking. If you do not value other people's opinion who are saying something different than you or opposing you with an argument, you should feel yourself in their shoe by removing first yourself from your shoe so that you could take an unbiased analysis of that argument and rational, and then you can find a matching space or common ground with other arguments, and you could be doing a problem solving in a much better way. So this is the way I used to think. This is the way I used to conduct my workshops. Sometimes they are with traditional titles, but the content, the delivery, the time people would spend with me, that would add value. I hope that I have covered a lot of aspects to your question in my response.
Oh, absolutely. What comes out very, very clearly for me is that one of the things that you need to be creative is a flexible mindset that would allow you to connect dots in different ways and different scenarios.
Yeah, correct. So when we, for example, now you are also a quality professional, Ruth, and you just attended World Conference on Quality, and I was very delighted that you were talking to the people, telling them about creative thinking, conducting those workshops. And you have really brought in a very intelligent point of connecting dots. When we work in the team, all the team members may be having those dots. And if we could focus, we do some brainstorming, we do some group activity, team activity, then we could connect those dots to find the solution we have always been looking for. And that would do wonders. But again, in order to achieve that level of team productivity, we have to overcome the cultural barriers, right? And that means if I believe in my team member, I have to delegate power, delegate authority, I have to listen to him, right? And that reminds me of some previous jobs outside Pakistan. And I used to say to my boss and to my juniors that whatever I do is not my senior job, and it's also not my junior job. So the command of chain or the hierarchy is very important. And now these days, you see, we are having more flat organization because now we have more empowered teams. We have more people that we can have trust in. So all this emanates from having trust, and that increases the profile. Only if you allow me to say that, and some people may disagree with it, but individual successes, individual targets, individual objectives in the life, this is actually ambition of the rookies. So whoever is new to a profession, he or she might be having something in mind that would be, you can say that it would be around individual personality. But with the passage of time, when they pass through different projects, when they pass through different assignments, which would require a team effort to claim the success, they get into this, not only on the professional workplace, but also in the community, also in the professional community. So then it moves up the ladder on the institutional level, industry level, provincial level, national level, and global level. Now, for example, if you could allow me, we are connected today because of, again, this trust and this enthusiasm and this honor that has been bestowed upon by American Society for Quality, which has taken more than 75 years to come to that level. That sitting here in Pakistan, you sitting in Canada, in the morning I was having a mentorship session as a mentor with someone far away from here. Last year I was mentoring people sitting in US, in Canada. This is all bliss of belief, trust, empowerment in each other as human. Again, we are not robots. We have not been programmed to work in one way, in one dimension. We have been created to think differently so that we could help each other. So the variation, we understand variation, and quality profession, by the way, exists to overcome variation, but variation creates opportunities, whether it is in the form of endowments, natural endowments, artificial endowments, landlocked countries, countries having access to the ocean, they connect to each other to promote globalization, to promote trade, to elevate the quality of working life. Similarly, we as individual professionals get together to elevate the standards of our profession, to promote this profession. And we are all, you would agree to that, we are all bound by the code of conduct, which makes us, super professional. And we claim ourselves to be proud members. Sorry if I was a bit ambitious on this, but this is the way I contribute in American Society for Quality many years. I hope you would acknowledge this.
Absolutely. It's about a sense of belonging. And I couldn't have said it better myself. As you get a sense of belonging, it gives you permission and also a sense of faith that enables you to come up with different solutions. I do remember I was absolutely delighted myself when you invited me to be a mentor to your students. And it was my first chance to not only mentor students, but also do it remotely. And it was really an interesting exercise to take part in. There was myself, and there was also another person all the way from Curacao. So for me, that was a very novel way of teaching students. So I can tell that that's something that you embody, is trying new things and giving new experiences.
Yeah, that's great. And you see, again, we have variation of culture in this part of the world, in your part of the world, and another part of the world. But I would say, again, it is quality by design. As Dr. Duran said, quality by design. And the creator of this universe has created this variation so that we could interact and we could help and support each other. So again, this variation creates opportunity for improvement. And this cross-cultural activities, cross-cultural exchange of best practices actually helps humanity, professional circles, and the social community to uplift each other. So I see it as, every cloud has a silver lining. I see it a big, big opportunity. And it is so big that we are still, trying to shake hands and trying to promote each other's, strengths so that we could maximize the value that we can get from this. So I really appreciate that you have been doing this kind of podcast and conducting workshops over virtual platforms and on physical places. So this, opportunity of talking about creativity with myself sitting over here in Pakistan, this is another opportunity for the professionals to sit together virtually or physically and take advantage from this. So, for example, you are now conducting these workshops from some time. So you would be having feedbacks, you would be having how people were able to leave the workshop with the takeaways, how they were able to apply those things on their workplace, in their family, on their professional community, doing community service kind of things, and how we can take lessons from that all experience over here. So that would be a great value for everyone. So this, I see it as a win-win situation.
Mm-hmm. So I'm about to wrap up a little bit with One last question. I know that you've been very interested, involved in Quality 4.0. And
Yes.
the question to you is, what does creativity look like to you in the coming new age or Quality 4.0?
Another very great questions, and again, point of concern for quality professionals particularly. Now see, over the period of time, if we could refer to Industrial Revolution 3, which actually starts from 1940 with the invention of transistor, and it went all the way through the 21st century, and there were analog systems which were upgraded to digital systems. And the quality, modern quality was born with the analog systems. We have been naming some quality gurus in this talk, like Dr. Deming. He traveled to Japan to test and try his ideas, 14-point system of profound knowledge, PDCA or Deming's wheel and Shewhart cycle and those types of things. Now, what was required at that time? It was consistency. It was doing the things every time with the same level of accuracy, with the same level of precision. And in those times, quality was more like of doing inspection. And all the things, if you see from 1940, 50, 60, 70, even 80, they actually revolve around quality control. And quality control means all the people on the floor or the people delivering the service should be doing it the same way. But in this talk, in the first half an hour, we have been talking about variation. And we were actually promoting that variation is good to have. But activities from 40 to 80, even up to 90, were to focus on removing variations because they were seen as waste and defectives, right? So what happened in those times, the professions were standardized, education system were standardized, and organizations wanted to have intake of the human force of one consistent level so they could take care of processes, they could take care of those batches and production runs and the services delivering on the same level. But what we are talking today is different. So what has changed? Please allow me a few minutes to speak on that. Steve, what has changed in Industry 4.0 or Industry 5.0? Those things which were done by the human being on the processes, which required consistency, which required precision, which required accuracy, no, those things would not be done by human beings anymore. We have robots in place. So we have robotic process automation also, which are taking care of business processes. We have now artificial intelligence in place. We have machine learning and deep learning in place. So what does that mean? That means that on the real time process, we should not be worried because again, we human have created those robotic processes. We have created those automation and automation regimes where the variations on the process level, on the material level would be taken care by machines. So what we should be focused upon? We should be focused upon the stakeholders, other human, and this is what the new Industry 5.0 era is emerging. Industry 4.0 is totally about machines taking control of the workplace, factories, services, service bots, police bots, agri bots, robotics everywhere. Although we are not on very high super intelligence level, but slowly and gradually we are moving towards that. So what we have been promoting in Quality 4.0 in American Society for Quality, we wanted to make sure that in this big transformation, quality profession should not be compromised. People should not be, shocked to know that their profession does not exist anymore. So for example, if there was a quality inspector, there was a calibration technician, there was a maintenance engineer. He or she should not be worried that their job is being taken away and they would be jobless in a few months' time or few years' time. We wanted to support our community through American Society for Quality, and I was coincidentally leading all those committee and groups and on some other platforms, that it is the time to transform this profession as well. So it is not only transforming the factories to a smart factory workplace, transforming the service to a service robotics place. We also need to take care of quality profession to transform into what is required now. So what is required now is more on the soft skills level, that we also called transportable skills, right? Because technical and functional skills have been taken over by robots, by machines. So what is left that a robot can't do? Robot is designed to do the things every time with the same input, with the same output, with the same level of equation, and machine can learn over time and can enhance productivity and quality, but not major deviations are allowed. Who can reprogram them to deviate? Human. So the super intelligence, which is an elevated form of artificial intelligence, is still with the human being. If you allow me, I would again recall that future leadership is now another skill which World Economic Forum is recommending. What is future leadership? Future leadership is to help the professionals to go into the next level in their profession by enhancing their soft skills or the transportable skills. And very importantly, creative thinking, because creative thinking is, if you allow me to say, is the driver and engine of all other skills. It allows us to think differently. It allows us and motivates us every time to go to the next level of creativity and innovation. So I found a way of doing things differently. But what happens when every person is now replicating it? What happens if the other organizations are replicating it? The answer is I have to now find another innovative way, and how I would be supported by having creative thinking paradigm. So this is something that would help me to the path of continuous improvement and continuous learning, which is very much required in the quality profession. So please mind my words, the quality principles are not going to change. So whatever we have learned from Deming and Juran and Crosby and Feigenbaum and Japanese gurus is not going to replace. It is going to stay because it is about principles which do not change. They are almost universal constant. The way we exercise those principles would be upgraded. So the goals would be still set by human beings, by quality managers, but they need to have new skills in place. For example, they may not be collecting data, they may not be designing data sheets, they may not be going from one station to another station with check sheets. So all that manual work would be replaced by automation and automation. So what they should be good at? Analytical thinking. So when the machine presents or the robots present or the computer presents to them the interpretation. So for example, if they are running a hypothesis, right? Again, a simulation, if it is done by the machine, still quality manager or the Six Sigma black belt or any other quality profession can still set the parameters to test those hypotheses. So it still reside with the human, but they have to enhance their soft skills to the level where they would be taking control of the process through the interface of automation, automation, and robotics. So it is the need of the time. And it is my earnest request through your auspices and through your platform to all the individual professionals around the world. We have been talking about Quality 4.0 for the past few years. ASQ has been administering Quality 4.0 conference where I would be the panel speaker also, and I would be the technical reviewer. This year it would be, you would be glad, it would be organized as innovation conference. So they are now recognizing that Quality 4.0 is actually about innovation. And I'm also working with innovation technical community, and next month actually I have a talk to give to the forum where 3 technical communities would be contributing. One is service quality, another is statistics, and third is innovation division. And I would be talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, how it is impacting the profession and how we can survive. So I appreciate that you gave me an opportunity to talk about this as well. So I hope that I answered your question.
I think so. This sounds like a good time to wrap up our talk. I think we've covered quite a lot of areas. Thank you very much. And until next time.
It has always been a pleasure to join hands with you to support our communities around the world through this cross-cultural positive experiments. So I am really grateful to you for inviting me to this very important talk. And this would help us. And I really wish that my fellows over here also take this to that level of priority where this can help them, not only individual profession, but also on the organization level, industry level, and national level. Thank you very much, Ruth.